if you want to look at review assignment number 1, certainly you can expect on your test, I'm going to give you some questions to graph. In fact, I'm going to give you 8 questions to graph. Some will be nice and in slope-intercept form, like 1A, 1B. Some will not be in slope-intercept form, like 1C or 1D. At least one of them will be in slope point form, and if you try and rewrite it in slope-intercept form, the y-coordinate will be a fraction-y, decimal-y thing, so you won't be able to use slope-intercept form. You'll have to realize that in slope point form, you have a point, start counting from that point, and go rise over run from that point. And if you're not quite sure how that works, talk to me and I'll do one a bit like that later. I'll ask you to find the slope of some lines. I'll ask you to find the slope of 2 points. Definitely, that's fair game on your test. So like number 4, totally fair game. I will expect you to know which slopes are positive, which slopes are negative, and which specifically slopes are 0 and undefined. 0 and undefined are vertical and horizontal. Which one is a slope of 0? A vertical or a horizontal line? Horizontal. And the way you can remember that, skier comes to a stop. Skier has a speed of 0. Vertical line, skier dies and becomes undefined. Undefined slope, if you're skiing on a slope like that. I will ask you some questions involving parallel and perpendicular slopes. So you need to know that parallel lines have the same slopes. Perpendicular slopes have negative reciprocals, opposite and flip it. So change the sign to positive or change the sign to negative if it was positive and flip it. What if it's not a fraction? Well, what would the perpendicular slope to negative 3 be? Positive 1 over 3, because negative 3 is a fraction. It's over 1. It's invisible. Number 7 is just asking, do you know the various forms? Again, what I'm going to give you on your test on the front page is the 4 equations that are on the study guide, and I'll show you those again in a bit. But you'll get the slope-intercept form template, the slope point form template, the general form template, and the slope formula. You have to be able to find the slope, the y-intercept, or the x-intercept. To find the slope and the y-intercept, the easiest way is to get the y by itself, although you can find the y-intercept by putting a 0 in for x. Still works too. X-intercept, put a 0 in for y. Number 9, there's a slight typo. It says rewrite the following general form equation is. So first of all, they're not in general form. Rewrite the following equations into slope-intercept form, because general form was equal to 0, and I noticed none of these were. I was writing in a hurry and making up questions. That's my fault. Rewrite slope-intercept in general form. That means make it equal to 0. But first, Feltzad, clear fractions, Cole. You cannot rewrite it. In other words, this one here, if you wanted to make it equal to 0, you couldn't just say, I'm going to minus y. In general form, you can't have fractions in your coefficients. You got to clear fractions out. How do you clear fractions? Multiply by a common denominator. I expect to be able to find the equation of a line given the slope and a point in general form. That's using the Swiss Army knife cross-multiply trick. I also expect you to be able to handle it in slope point form. That's filling the blanks in for that template, knowing that m is where the slope goes, and in brackets when it says x minus x1, that's where your x coordinate goes, and in when it says y minus y1, that's where your y coordinate goes. I expect to be able to find the equation of a line if I give you 2 points, because I asked myself 2 questions. Do I know the slope? Not yet, but I certainly can find the slope from those 2 points by going y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and I'll give you that equation. Oh, then I have the slope, and I have 2 points. Pick one of them, and if you go to general form, you'll get the same answer for both of them, no matter which point you pick. I expect to be able to handle stating the equation in slope point form. So if I want to state the equation of this one in slope point form, it's going to be, what would number 13 be?
Y minus 3 equals 4, bracket x minus 9.
Yoink. 13a. So slope point form, remember, looks like this. Y minus y1 equals m bracket x minus x1. So was Darian right? It would be y take away 3, 4 bracket x take away 9. Were you correct?
No.
Did you get the 3 and the 9 mixed up?
I actually did get it correct.
You did get it correct? Because the most common mistake, kids want to put the 9 there because it shows up first in this version of the equation. No, careful, that 9 is definitely an x. It goes next to the x. Why is it minus, Mr. Dewick, and not plus? When we did this lesson, we actually showed that it came from the slope formula, and you did end up with an extra negative in front of each number, which changed their sign. I expect you to be able to go from one form to another form. In fact, I expect you to be able to go from any form into any other form. Well, that's a fib. Going into slope point form is tricky if you don't have any points to begin with, so I won't expect that. $15 is totally fair game. 16 is totally fair game. 17, finding an x and y intercept, absolutely. Number 18, going to general form, absolutely. Number 19, giving you parallel, or like number 20, giving you perpendicular lines, totally fair game. The second study guide, my block G's just got today, my block C's got yesterday, and had a bit of extra time to work on it. Are there any of these, either from either study guide, that you've looked at and you're going, holy schmoly, I have no idea how to get that? Now is your chance to ask. Yep, Graham.
Like number 19 on the first.
On the first one, review number 1. Number 19, this one here? Okay. A or B? B is the nasty one. What I'm going to do then is I'll make up one, I'll copy number 19B, but I'm going to make up one really similar to it. I'll change the numbers slightly. So there's number 19. B has that right now. Now, what's weird about this, first of all, what I'll do, Graham, is how about instead of going through point B, -4, -3, how about point B, -5, comma, -2? Magic. And what's weird about this equation?
Fraction.
We dealt with fractions before. What's by itself?
The
The x,
x.
this is not slope-intercept form. This is, the x is by itself. So Graham, I'll cross this guy out and I'll say, how about x equals -4/3y plus 3. Just making it up. Okay? They want the equation in slope point form, so Graham, they want this one. Well, I can tell you the point that it goes through. What's the point that this goes through? Sorry? No. What's the point that this goes through?
Oh, yeah.
It's even more obvious, right? In other words, Graham, I know my equation's going to look like this. I don't know what's going there. I've got most of my equation filled in. What I really need to figure out here is the slope. Okay? Now, if they had said, instead of slope point form, general form, I'd ask myself 2 questions. Do I have a point? Yes, -5, -2. Do I have a slope? I'll get the y by itself in this equation and find the slope. How will I get the y by itself? I think first I'll Feltzad, I'll clear fractions. I think first, even before that, I'll just give myself some more room. Isn't that cool? Yeah. When I do that, I'm going to get 3x equals, here, can you see, Graham, the 3's will cancel? And I'll get negative 4y plus 9. I'll get 3x take away 9 equals negative 4y. See what I did there? How did I get the y by itself? Sorry? Yeah, now how would I get the y by itself? I got to be fussy, not by 4. By negative 4. Don't forget that, by the way. Gee, would I have that answer on a multiple choice to pick from if you forgot the negative? No, me? Yeah. So divide by negative 4, divide by negative 4, divide by negative 4. For some reason, I'm moving to the left because I'm working in a big circle like a complete idiot. This isn't very organized. But it looks like I get this. Y equals, I get a negative 3 over 4x minus, actually plus 9 over 4. Now, I don't care about the y-intercept, but I can tell you what the slope of the line that they gave me, even though they had the x by itself, I was able to rearrange it. What's the slope of the line that they gave me? Now, in the original question, did they want parallel or perpendicular? Parallel. Same slope or different slope? If it's parallel. So I'm going to take this. There's the equation for this made-up question. Okay. Think you can handle number 19, the actual number B on your own then? And by the way, that's a fairly tricky one. What makes that one very tricky is A, you're doing the parallel perpendicular thing, and B, that second equation they gave you, they got the x by itself. I didn't type this up. I've wondered if that was a typo or deliberate, and I went, you know what? Even if it's a typo, I kind of like that little nasty twist. Just, okay, I can deal with it. 20, by the way, Graham, almost identical set of questions in number 20, in that they're giving you a point and they're giving you an equation. Oh, but the key word here is, which means, do I have a point? Yes. Do I know the slope? Negative reciprocal, this puppy. Yeah. So I'll use a slope of negative 1/2. Here, I'll plus the y over minus. I think here you'll end up with a slope of negative 1/3, but don't quote me on that. I have to do a bit more math. Oh, and again, here they want slope-intercept form. The easiest way to get slope-intercept form is to use the cross-multiply trick general form, but then get the y by itself. Is that all right? Yeah. Great question. Yeah?
For the same one, but A, would you be able to use the 2x for the slope?
I'm going to be really, really fussy, and I'm going to say you wouldn't use the 2x for the slope, because I don't think the slope of that line is 2x. I think the slope of that line is just plain old 2. Yeah?
So it'd be like y minus 3 equals 2 over 1 minus 1.
It'd be like this. So this one, if you understand slope point form and can plug stuff in, it's really going to be simple. Did you say it's going to be y minus 3 equals 2 bracket x minus 1? And yeah, and you can get that showing no work. You know what? I don't think on your test I'll give you this second line in slope-intercept form because it's too easy to spot the slope. I'll probably give it to you in general form. And you'll have to rewrite it in slope-intercept form to get that slope that you need. Maybe not. I don't know. Meh. Next, any others from either of the reviews?
Number 12.
From which one?
Same one.
Same one, number 12. Love to. So here?
Yeah.
Okay. Again, what I'll do is I'll change the question so you can still practice your own question. I'll do a similar one up here. And again, I can print this up for you afterwards if you want. Here. Clip. What form do they want the final answer in, Mickey? So I'll get it in general using the cross multiply trick, and then I'll get the y by itself. I asked myself 2 questions. Do I have a point? I got 2 of them. Do I know the slope? Not yet. How can I find the slope here? The slope that we're interested in is going to be 4 minus 5, y2 minus y1, over 2 minus, oh, wait a minute, I said I was going to do a question very similar but with different numbers. So you know what, let's go yoink, yoink, and let's say, how about 6 comma 3 and negative 2 comma negative 1. There, same question. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. By the way, I think in 12a, when you get the slope, I think you either end up with negative 1 over negative 1 or 1 over 1 or negative. It works out evenly, I think, when you actually do the actual numbers. Here, this is going to be negative 4 over negative 8. Oh, this works out kind of nice. My slope is 1/2. By the way, what if they had said perpendicular to that line there? Negative 2 over 1, but they didn't, so okay. It doesn't matter which point I use now. I can either go y minus 3 over x minus 6 equals 1/2. I can use the 6 comma 3. Or I can go y minus minus 1 over x minus minus 2. Believe it or not, when I cross multiply both of these, eventually after about 2 lines, I'll end up with the same equation. Which one do you want to use? Left one or the right one? Okay. You see where I got them from, by the way? Or did I lose you on this step? You see where the slope came from? Yes? And then we said you can use either of those points as your x1 comma y1, but you let your x2 comma y2 just be a generic x comma y point, because that's what you're plugging into the formula to get an equation. Is that okay? Which one do you want to use? The right-hand one or the left-hand one? Pick. The first one or the second one?
Does it matter?
No, I just want you to make a call because you look confused. Which one?
The left one.
So, okay. The only reason I might have used the other one is I noticed when I wrote it out, I had all minus minuses, which makes everything positive, and I know I make less mistakes with positives, but that's such a minor nitpicky thing. That's me being uber paranoid as a test writer. This will work. We're going to cross multiply. We're going to get 2 bracket y minus 3 equals 1 bracket x minus 6. Although, Mickey, does 1 times a bracket make a difference at all on the right-hand side? So I would have no problem if you went, do it for Pete's sakes. I know it's just that. Yes? Let's get the y by itself. We get 2y equals x. By a nice fluke, my numbers cancel. It's a complete fluke. How do I get the y by itself? Y equals, now you could write x over 2. It's really, if you want to write it in slope-intercept form, 1/2 x. And it looks like the x-intercept or the y-intercept of this one is 0, 0. By a fluke. Is that okay? Make sense? Next. Yep.
12A.
12A, same handout?
Yeah.
Love to. I just did 12A.
They used to do
That's what I just finished talking about.
that. Well,
Do you have déjà vu? Do you have déjà vu? So what we said, look up, kiddo. We said if I give you 2 points, I made up 2 different points. Said your first job is find the slope by using y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, find the slope. And then, because they wanted slope-intercept form, I'm going to do my cross-multiply trick and get the y by itself. So it doesn't matter which point you use in here. You could go y minus minus 1 over x minus minus 2. Or you could go y minus 3 over x minus 6. When you cross-multiply about 3 lines later, you'll notice you got the same equation no matter what. Whatever you were plussing on one side ends up canceling out on the other side anyhow. Is that okay, Mr. Over 90 boy?
yeah.
Darian.
13 on Unit 5 study guide.
13. Nice. Nice. This one I will do because it's multiple choice, I guess. Thunk. Yoink. What do they want me to find, Darian?
The equation of y.
And take a look at all four answers. What form do they want my final answer to be in? General. So I'm going to use the cross multiply E trick. Okay. I ask myself two questions. The first question is, do I know the slope?
No.
Not yet.
Not.
However, I can find the slope because it says it's parallel to that puppy. How can I find the slope of that?
Slope-Intercept Form.
So I'm going to rewrite it. Except Darian, because I'm pressed for time, I'm going to plus the 2y over already on the first line. Is that okay?
Yep.
How would I get the y by itself?
Divide by 2.
I think you're going to get this. Y equals divide by 2, divide by 2. Here's the key. I think the slope is a half. Positive. By the way, I don't really teach this. I did once in a while with honors. Mac, for what it's worth, if you have the equation in general form, the slope is always this number in front of the x divided by that number in front of the y, but change the sign. And if you think about how you do slope-intercept form to get the y by itself, you'll notice, oh yeah, I always do end up dividing by this and with this on the top. I don't know if that's worth memorizing. In fact, it's not worth memorizing. I use it as kind of a built-in error check. Cool, when I get it. Yeah, good. I asked myself two questions. Do I know the slope? Do I?
Yep.
Do I have a point?
Yep.
I do. So, y minus 3 all over x minus 0. Can I just write x equals the slope? 2 bracket y minus 3 equals 1 times x, or just plain old x. 2y minus 6 equals x. Make it equal to 0. Oh, by the way, what number is in front of my x right now? It's a trick question. Huh?
Positive.
Positive what?
1.
1. That ain't it. That ain't it. That ain't it. I could almost stop. Now, I'm sure the answer is C. Oh, and now that I've done that, oh yeah, because if I make it equal to 0, there's the x. I would minus the 2y. I would plus the 6. I do get C. Right? But for what it's worth, whenever you're doing multiple choice, always glance at your answers and see if you can eliminate some of the wrong ones. Always. Next.
Did you do one from the take-home quiz?
No. Yes, of course. Which take-home quiz?
Number 3.
Quiz 3?
Yeah.
What number?
6.
What block are you?
C.
Block C?
Yeah.
I swear I just did this yesterday. That's okay. Okay. Folks, I think I like number 6. I think I'll say this. On your test, on the written, as a nasty, I guarantee I gave you an equation. Find the equation. And I used parallel or perpendicular to a general form line and an x or a y intercept for a general form line. So something like this. It might not be an x intercept, it might be a y intercept, and it might not be perpendicular, it might be parallel. I can't remember. But you shall see this. I'm going to, again, cut and paste this, and then since you already have this on your quiz, I'm going to change the numbers for a different question. And that way you can try it on the quiz and look at the answer key and see if you did it right. Okay. I'm going to go change this equation to 3x plus 4y minus 5 equals 0. And I'm going to change this equation here to, instead of a minus 12, how about a 9? There. Now it's a whole new question. Yeah, not much to it. What form do they want the equation?
General form?
The cross multiply trick's my best bet. I asked myself 2 questions.
Give us the slope.
Not yet. How can I find the slope?
Get the y minus 1.
For what line? Because there's 2 lines there. First one. 3x minus 5 equals negative 4y. I already moved the 4y over. Is that okay in one step? And then divide by
4, negative 4.
yeah, 4 and negative. You and Graham got the same disease. Divide by 4. Negative 4. Yeah. Don't forget the negatives. I get the equation that they gave me. Apparently, though, I don't want that. I want perpendicular to that. What slope do I want to use then, Anthony, my friend?
4 over 3.
And because that's important, I'd probably put a box around it just to remind myself, don't forget where it is. I asked myself 2 questions. Do I have a slope? And do I have a point? Have I got a point yet?
No.
Not yet. How can I find the point?
Like, find out x or y intercept.
Which one? X intercept, I think, in this one, yes? How do I find an X intercept?
Make the y 0.
So if you do that, you're going to get 3x minus 9 equals 0, because that middle negative 2y in the middle, if there's a 0 there, it's going to be negative 2 times 0, which is 0, which is... By the way, in your head, 3 times what minus 9 is 0?
3.
Yeah, I think it's going to be 3. We can plus the 9 over, divide by 3. Okay, my x coordinate for the x-intercept is 3, or as a point, 3, 0. Right? Right there is really what we're talking about on a graph, even if I want to go one step further and visualize. I asked myself 2 questions. Do I know the slope?
Yeah.
Check. Do I have a point? Check. Let your second point be x comma y. Plug it into the slope formula and cross multiply. I'm going to get y minus 0 over x minus 3 equals 4 over 3. I got to be honest, I wouldn't write y minus 0. It's just plain old y. And you can see where we're going now, I think, yeah? It's going to be 3y equals 4 bracket x minus 3. It's going to be 3y equals 4x minus 12. What did they want? General form? They did. It's going to be 0 equals 4x minus 3y minus 12. There it is. I like that question. I like that question. I like that question.
What's
Yep.
the point of,
Sorry, Anthony, go ahead, and then,
what's the point of giving
Darian.
us the second equation?
What's the point of what?
Like giving us the second equation for that?
Because otherwise, how would you know the x-intercept?
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
Because I can give you a point in an equation. If it's an intercept, I can say, you can find that one. Yo.
Number 11 on Unit 5, set together.
Nice. Your timing is impeccable. Go ahead, find whatever you need to. Way to distract him when I want to answer his question. Ready, Darian?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you sure, Darian? I don't know. Okay. What do they want me to find?
The X-intercept.
X-intercept of what?
The line.
I don't have the line. How do I find an X-intercept normally?
You know, the Y by itself. Make the Y 0.
Put a 0 in for y. But to do that, I need an equation. Even though this question says find the X-intercept. You know what I'm going to spend most of my time doing, actually? Finding the equation. I'm going to ask myself two questions. Do I know the slope? Do I have a point? I can find the line. Then I'll let the y be 0, and hopefully I'll get an X-intercept, and hopefully Mr. Duick hasn't made a mistake on his answer key. Let's find out. It's going to be y minus 8 over x minus minus plus 2 equals negative 2 over 5. Is that okay so far? Cross multiply. X minus 24, 3y minus 24 equals negative 2x plus, minus 4. Make it equal to 0. I think I'm going to plus 24. And I think also I would minus 3y, would I not? So the final equation is going to be 0 equals negative 2x minus 3y plus 20. That's not what they asked me to find. That's what I had to find in order to find what they asked me to find. What did they ask me to find, Darian?
The X-intercept.
How do I find that?
With the Y 0.
Oh, so really what you're saying, Darian, look up, is just that. If you're looking for a real shortcut. In fact, you're going to get 0 equals negative 2x plus 20. Or, Darian, I think I would write it like this. I would plus that negative 2x over to the other side because there's a 0 there. 2 times what is 20?
Don't you divide?
Yeah, but I'm thinking maybe you can do it in your head. 10.
Yeah.
Did I say A on my answer key? I hope I did. Okay. That would be fair game, but Darian, I would consider that a B plus A minus level question because I'm asking you to combine a lot of stuff there. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines of work for one multiple choice question. Yeah, that's a little overkill, I think. Oh, and we took a couple of shortcuts by doing some of the math in our head. So.
I like verse 16A on the first review. But I like first I find the slope, right? And then what I cross multiply that with the point.
Looking at number 16, there's actually more than one answer. I would probably not give you one like this on your test. I would phrase it more clearly. Because the issue here, so you went y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and you found that the slope is just 1. And because it wants slope point form, here's really what that means. You can either go y minus 5 equals 1 bracket x minus 3, or y minus 4 equals 1 bracket x minus 2. Both of those work. There's more than one answer for each one of these because I gave you 2 points. It depends which point you use to write your slope point form. Yo. 12 and 16 are the same. On which handout?
That one. That's the one I asked you about. And you just asked me
Except in 12, I said slope-intercept form. And in 16, I said slope point form. Yeah, I noticed that. Then I went, yeah, that works. And I think 16's got a little long. Yeah, it's got an extra one. What you found, Mickey, is when we're typing these up, yes, we tend to cut and paste and change and cut and paste and change and reuse and cut and paste and change and reuse. So, but it's a better alternative than trying to read my handwriting. Believe me.
How would you do 15 for the study guide?
Pretty easily. Oh, how would you do? I'm sorry. Walked right into that one. Okay. 15a. Oh, I can tell you what the y-intercept is. It's 0, 2. See it right there. Right? 15a, I can tell you what the x-intercept is. It's negative 4, 0. I can see it right there. Don't feel bad, by the way. That happens all the time. We get so good at the really, really complicated stuff, we forget that, hey, don't forget the keep it simple, stupid approach. That still works, right? Oh, and now that you had those 2 points, could you find the equation? Sure, if you got we found the equation from 2 points several times. We use those 2 points to find the slope. And then do I know the slope? Do I have a point? Cross multiply. I can go to town. I can do whatever I need to. Because you'll notice, oh, this one actually I think does have a nice y-intercept. Never mind, I take that back. You can find the equation. I think the slope is 1/2. Here in B, y-intercept is definitely -8. Yes? X-intercept, put a 0 in for y, solve for x.
I got those on the
Oh, okay. Really? I mean, okay.
Can you put a 0 in for y and send slope-intercept form?
Yeah. And what will it look like? So I'll show you. I'll make up a different one. Supposing they gave you y equals, I'll do a harder one, -2/3 x plus 5. And they said, find the x-intercept. Can you actually put it on top of that briefcase that's sitting right there? So far, so good. Felt sad. Fractions. Times by 3, times by 3, times by 3. The left-hand side is nice. What's 3 times 0? Still.
0.
Here, you get a -2x and a positive, not 8, Mr. Dewick. That's what you would get if you added them. Good gosh. 15. Now what? I would probably plus the 2x to that side because it gets rid of a negative, and I'm going to make a dumb mistake with a negative. When you do that, you'll get 2x equals 15. Now what?
5 by 2.
Turns out this one, because I made it up in my head, has a fractional x-intercept of 15/2 or 7.5, 0. That's what happens when I make these up on the fly. So yeah, could you put a 0 in for y in slope-intercept form? Sure can. Take a couple lines, but very doable. Just be careful. Yep.
Number 9 on Untitled Study Guide.
Study guide, nombre 9. Yeah, I hate this question. I like this question. I hate this question. I like this question. They love stuff like this on the provincial. I hate these. Okay. What does it want me to find?
The x and the y-intercept.
You missed the first one.
The slope.
Because the slope is the easiest to find. How can I find the slope? Get the...
Y by itself.
That I can do now. I've done enough. I've given you guys like 10 zillion of those stupid joke sheets, and we've done this a bunch. I think I would plus the 4 over. I would minus the 2x over. I think if you rewrite this in slope-intercept form, Darian, do you agree with me? You'll get a negative 2x plus 4. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, Darian, my friend, what is the slope?
-2.
Wrong, wrong. A and C are wrong. Oh, and Darian, what's the y-intercept?
1.
Because that also comes from slope-intercept form.
4.
Nope. Oh, did I need to do every single one to actually get this? By the way, how would I find the x-intercept? We just did it. We put a 0 in for y, and I could confirm that too. But I'm also trying to teach you, if the test has a multiple choice section, i.e. your provincial, always cross off wrong answers. As soon as you know they're wrong, you'll find in almost 1/4 of the questions, you don't need to do the whole question. You can quit. Is that all right?
Yeah.
How else could I gum this up? I could say, which of the following is perpendicular to? In which case, the slope that you're looking for would be positive 1 over 2.
Okay.
Otherwise, that's about it. Parallel to would be the same slope, which is kind of what we just did anyhow. So, any luck yet, Graham?
No.
Have you been able to get one color?
No.
Because that's usually the first step in solving the cube.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, like how do you get it? Like say this blue one, how do you get that one into the middle? Impossible.
Next. Any others? Anything from any of the reviews? By the way, hopefully maybe we're at a point now where you're starting to notice we're almost repeating very similar procedures, Mac, over and over and over, just tweaking them. We got our 3 different forms of lines, the slope formula, rise over run, intercepts, but otherwise we're kind of almost mixing and matching. It's like we have about 8 ingredients, we're just shaking them up in a container and we're pulling a couple out and saying, what can we do with them now? Yeah.
You know when you said that if you had a general form,
Yo.
all the 3 like symbols could be switched around to be the same answer?
Yeah. So here, go ahead.
Be like, if I had negative 3x minus y plus 14, that'd be the same as like 3x plus y minus 14.
If you had negative, say it again.
Negative 3x
Yep.
minus y plus 14.
See, it all depends on which side you chose to move your stuff to. Maybe I chose to move my stuff to the left side and you chose to move your stuff to the right side. So yeah, 0 equals, it would be a positive 3x if I moved it over, yes? A positive y if I moved it over, and a minus, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Those, same equation. So especially on the multiple choice, I guarantee you probably at least once will go, oh, that's not my equation. Oh, that is my equation. It's all completely opposite. Now that only works for general form. For slope-intercept form and for slope-point form, your equation should match exactly bang on. Exactly. Any others? Okay, let me see. So some hints about your test. Hey, I like number 1. Hey, I like number 9. 10 is good. I'm having to jump around because I changed the order of stuff.
Is the study guide harder than
Is the study guide, sorry?
harder than the test?
I try generally to make it tougher than the test where possible. As I'm moving around here like crazy. I swear I saw that one. Sorry, I'm jumping around here. Yeah. Really, Mr. Dick? I expect to be able to give you the slope and the y-intercept, and you just tell me the equation. That's straight slope-intercept form. You okay with that, I hope? I expect to be able to find equations perpendicular. So there's a question here saying which of the following is perpendicular to the equation that I gave you. Find the slope of the equation that I gave you and then see which ones are flipped, opposite reciprocal, negative reciprocals. You need to be able to, if I give you a line, a picture of the actual graph, find the equation. So let me just talk about that for 1 second here. Let me see if I can find a good example of that, Mr. Dewick. Don't. So here's a graph. Clip. Supposing I gave you the following line picture. Supposing I did this. Oh, heck, let's go uphill just for giggles. What's the equation of that line? Well, the easiest way would be to write it in slope-intercept form. Can you see? I know it's kind of small, but maybe you can see. What's the slope? Cole's counting carefully. What's the y-intercept?
2.
What if I didn't give you that? Can you write me an equation using that point right there? Well, first of all, what are the coordinates of that point? -2, comma, -4. You could also go y plus 4 equals 3 bracket x plus 2. Does that work? Using slope point form? Or not? Right? Or could use that point there, which is 1 comma 5. Y minus 5 equals 3 bracket x minus 1. That's the same equation.
If you just give us the 1 point, how would we know slope?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
If like you gave us that 1 point and said find
What I could give you on a test is I could say, here's a line, like the picture, and I could give you 2 or 3 equations to pick from and say, which of these are the equation of that line? And they wouldn't have to necessarily be in slope-intercept form. They could be in slope point form. But it's pretty obvious when you see the big dot points on the graph, you know how to go spot that point in slope point form, I hope. Okay, so that was one. Then we get to the written section. The written section, very similar to the written section of the review that I gave you. Really no big surprises. So the written section is very, very, very similar to yep, that's on there. That's on there. That's on there. That's on there. And very similar to quiz number 3. Okay? And then the very last page, I told you, I've got 8 lines to graph. I'm hoping that's a free 8 marks. You should find about 80% of it, as long as you're careful algebraically, because you'll notice we're doing a lot of equation solving. It is easy to make a dumb mistake. As long as you're careful that way, you should find about 80% of it is pretty straightforward. You should find about 10% of it more is, oh, I had to think for a bit, do it, nice try, you got me. There is one tricky question. And I have to kind of not say more than that because on the provincial I can't predict every question that's going to show up, so I have to somehow get used to thinking quick on your feet and being clever. Is that okay? Any other questions? Then, who would like a copy, a printout of what I was writing here?